Kalau hidup orang bersaudara, gandonge sagu salempeng kata dua. Apalagi hidup jauh di rantau orang, jangan lebih tak karuan. Meski hidup senang ataukah susah, gandonge jam satu marah lain. Ingat apa mama dan papa bilang, jangan lupa kumpul bersaudara. Di rantau, kalau ingat mama dan papa, air mata jatuh berlinang. Ingin mau pulang, pulang ke Ambon, tanah tumpah darah. Meski hidup senang ataukah susah, gantungnya jang
Pantai Natsepa, pantai tempat kesenangan. Waktu terang bulan seperti perak cahayanya. Mari kita duduk bersama-sama, mengambil kesenangan di dalam sinarnya. Nasepa, pantai pasir putih, tepi pantai, lautanku. Waktu terang bulan menambah kecantikan, tak bisa dilupakan. Natsepa, sungguh bagus pantainya. Pantai Natsepa, pantai tempat kesenangan. Waktu terang bulan seperti perak cahayanya. Mari kita duduk bersama-sama, mengambil kesenangan di dalam sinarnya. Natsepa, pantai pasir putih, tepi pantai, lautanku. Waktu terang bulan menambah kecantikan, tak bisa dilupakan. Natsepa, pantai pasir putih, tepi pantai, lautanku. Waktu terang bulan menambah kecantikan, tak bisa dilupakan.
Thank you so much everyone for being loyal with us until today's meeting. And now we're going to continue to the second session of preliminary. And without further ado, I'm calling on the second session, which will be delivered by our invited speaker, Dr. Brian Isopul from University College Cork, Ireland. And from this session will be moderated by our Ibu Helena Rijoli, SPD MA TESOL. For Ibu Helena, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Farron, for a lovely introduction. Welcome everyone to our second panel sessions of today. I know everybody must be tired. You have gone through several sessions from this morning, but I do hope that everybody can still smile and so we can enjoy this panel session. My name is Helena Rijoli. I am going to be the moderator for today. We have an excellent lineup topics to discuss today by two of our experts in their fields. We have the pleasure of having Dr. Bryony Soppel, and I do not know how to refer to Pak York Kern. Pak is a respected reference to a male, so then I will call you Pak York Kern. So if you look into your programs, you will see that Dr. Brian Sappo is from University College Cork, Ireland. Meanwhile, Pak Yorkern is a freelance e-learning designer, and both of their topic of today will be very fitted to our condition at the moment, as we are we are challenging COVID-19 with our circumstances, but we shall win instead of this COVID-19. So we will start from our first invited speaker, Dr. Bryony Supple. And before I pass this floor to her, I would like to introduce her to you. Dr. Bryony Supple is a senior lecturer, design thinking pedagogy and praxis, and learning and teaching enhancement with her expertise in innovative pedagogy and research methodology, action research, teacher training, professional development, and she has 20 years of expertise in the education sector in a variety of international contexts. Just by reading that, it's a wow factor for all of us who is interested. At the moment, she is serving as the lecturer, learning and teaching enhancement at the CIRTL UCC. Yes. So without further ado, because we are running on a very tight schedule, I have the committee in my head at the moment. We will continue to the presentation sessions, and Dr. Brian, you will have 30 minutes to present, and then I will open a question and answer session for 15 minutes. Meanwhile, to our lovely and very patient participants, you can write your questions in the chat box, but I would like to advise that you do not wait until Dr. Brian is finished with her presentation before you post it, because then there will be a waiting time for your questions to come in. Okay, so Dr. Brian will present her the presentation on how we are rethinking pedagogy in the pandemic. Exactly what we're doing at the moment. So without further ado, Dr. Bryony, the time is yours.
Thank you very much, Helena, and thank you for this opportunity. Delighted to be here. Good morning from Cork. Good evening in Indonesia. So I'm just going to share my screen here. So you can see that I have the lovely University College Cork quad behind me, as it were. So I'm just wondering, can you see my full screen? You should see a full screen of a PowerPoint, not a notes page. Is that okay? Perfect. Thanks very much. So thank you for that lovely introduction, Helena. So as Helena said, I'm Bryony Supple, and I'm currently working across two roles. So my title is really long at the moment. So my two roles are senior lecturer in design thinking, pedagogy and praxis, which is part of the School of Education, and also a lecturer in learning and teaching enhancement at the Centre for the Integration of Research, Teaching and Learning. And both of those positions are based in University College Cork here in Ireland. So today I'm going to be focusing on, as Helena said, how we're rethinking pedagogy in the pandemic. And what I'm going to be focusing on is two tools that I've used and I find that are very practical in terms of, and really become very relevant at this point in time. And these tools are called Spark and ABC. So I'll be talking a bit about those. So just to give you a little bit of an idea about myself firstly, so as I said, I'm working across these two positions in UCC. I have a PhD from Monash University in Melbourne, Australia. And I'm originally from Australia, but I've been living in Ireland since 2016, and I've been teaching in a fully online capacity since 2015. So the two programs that I teach across are the postgraduate diploma in innovation through design thinking and a fully online certificate in teaching and learning in higher education, which is a qualification for educators who are working in universities. So just a little bit about the context of Ireland, if you're not really sure where it is. So it's here on the map in green, and where Cork is based is right at the bottom of the map there, so you can see the red circle on the island of Ireland. So Cork is a beautiful city. I can say that I'm not biased because I'm not from here originally. So there's it's a lovely city to walk around, very picturesque. And this is our campus. So I think you have the quad behind me as well on a lovely sunny day. So there's a really rich history with the university itself. And it's a city-based university, so the campus is only a 20-minute walk from the city centre. There's approximately 25,000 students at UCC, around 3,000 members of staff across 4 colleges, which are arts, medicine and health, science and engineering, and business and law. So the context that I'm working in, and I'm going to speak primarily about my lectureship, which is in the Centre for the Integration of Research, Teaching and Learning. And in that capacity, I teach on a fully online program, and this program has been fully online since 2016. It has a yearly intake of around 100 per year. And so the aim of the program is to provide staff in higher and further education with the opportunity to develop and professionalise their teaching practice and to enhance learning, while gaining an internationally recognised postgraduate qualification. And so there's a really practical component of the program, which is looking at applying learning. So you're learning to your own context, and also developing a community of practice with peers who are also in the program. So we've had in previous years, because of the fully online component, we've had students from China, Japan, Hong Kong, the UK, the United Arab Emirates, the USA and UK, as well as, of course, within Ireland. So despite the fact that we come from this beautiful campus, of course, we have been forced into lockdown as well. So in March 2020, all higher education institutions across Ireland were forced to deliver all of their programs online. This is apart from a few that maybe had lab-based components and were allowed certain restricted elements of access onto campus. So this is, of course, was because of the coronavirus. So within that context, then what I'm going to be talking about is showcasing experiences garnered from those at the educational frontline. So in my capacity as lecturer in learning and teaching enhancement, I've been working with, this year, the cohort of the fully online program is about 80 lecturers from across all disciplines. And what I implemented was initially in first semester, the use of a Spark tool, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. And what we found was this was a really good way for us to talk through the challenges imposed by COVID, and developing empathy for both themselves as well as their students. So I'm going to talk through the Spark tool first, and then I'm going to move to what the implications of learning from the Spark tool are in terms of what is called the ABC, or the ABC to VLE approach, and a framework which really helps looking at curriculum development in light of how we're starting to now rethink our changes in pedagogy. So just first to the Spark tool, so a bit of a background about this. Around probably 18 months ago, my manager actually came to a staff meeting, and she said, we're not doing the usual staff meeting today, we're actually going to use this tool called Spark, and we're going to use that as a way to just talk through some of the challenges that we're facing. This was pre-COVID, in terms of our workloads and so on. So the idea is, and it's fully available online, you can download it and access it. But what it enables you to do is, as you can see, there's instructions here, but you have a number of different elements related to one's life, not only in work, but also physical and mental health support networks and so on. and you look at essentially mapping where you think you fit on the scale, whether you feel like you're quite low or you're quite high, and it gives you a sense then of how your life is kind of tracking at the moment. What it then gives you the tools and to be able to talk through some of the challenges without having to necessarily go into too much detail. And participants are then are invited to share, if they want to, some of the elements that they might find challenging. So what I did then was, what I found with my online program was a webinar that I conducted very early in semester. My students, who are themselves educators, were really talking about not only how they felt challenged by the pandemic, but the concern about their students and their concerns about their students' mental health and so on. So I used this Spark tool in a webinar that I conducted, and we used a Google Jamboard then. So what I asked the participants to do was use the Spark tool, go into groups and discuss elements of it. And I just did a very kind of a basic version, conscious of the fact that people might not necessarily want to go into a lot of personal detail. But the idea was that the groups are getting together and talking through some of the common challenges that they were facing. And the idea then is anything that I do in my program, I'm conscious that a tool that an educator as a student in my program can potentially use as a tool with their own students. So this was the idea I really wanted to get across, that idea of they experience this tool as a student and then they can implement that with their own students. So this is a kind of just a snapshot of some of the feedback that came back from the groups. So what I did then, just for the purposes of today, was to go through some of those notes, and really what came through was this idea of you can't give from an empty cup. That really came through from the lecturers. So there was really this sense from the lecturers, who are my students, talking about the need for boundaries between work and home, which is very, very difficult, obviously, when most of us are working at home. This idea of the importance of physical exercise, which may seem obvious, but again, when we don't have these boundaries, we're missing even necessarily getting outside. The importance of establishing social and support networks, being open about the challenges of technology. So even with students having that vulnerability and saying there are challenges that we're working around. We use MS Teams at UCC, so there's been a bit of a learning curve even in implementing that for lectures and so on. And then using the Spark to give language to the challenges and where to focus the needed changes, both for oneself and for one's students. And then this idea of compassion and kindness for selves and then for students. So really that idea of you can't give to your students unless you're really looking after yourselves in all of these elements as well. So what does that mean for pandemic pedagogy? I think on reflection, what really comes through to me in light of working with my students as the educators is rethinking an ethics of care at the heart of the curriculum. I think it's a real opportunity for us going forward to think about this idea of how do we kind of nurture students within the curriculum. And also we have the opportunity, I think, going forward to really kind of leverage the possibility of students as partners for curriculum change and working towards this idea of this new vision for 2021. So this is where I'm going to talk about the next tool, which is the ABC approach to curriculum design. So in a nutshell, the ABC design method is an effective, engaging, hands-on, card-based approach to curriculum design, which enables academics to engage in an informed dialogue about learning design, and also as a part of kind of reviewing their programs and modules. So I attended a workshop about 12 months ago where I was a participant in learning this ABC curriculum design process. So I was working with my own module and learning the tools, which I'll describe in a moment, to talk through changes that I was wanting to make to my curriculum. And what I came away from that workshop thinking, it's just so hands-on, and it's really, really beneficial in terms of giving a language around curriculum development, learning and teaching and so on. So what it essentially is, it was developed out of University College London in collaboration with a few universities here in Ireland. And it is also based on the work of Diana Lauriard, who's based in UCL as well. And Diane Lauriard's book is called The Science of learning design. I think I have it here beside me. I can pull it out in a moment. So Diane Lauriard basically talks about how we frame teaching, but actually from the perspective of learning. So as you can see here, there's 6 different learning types. So essentially, any planning for a curriculum needs to involve all of these 6 different types. So we have acquisition, which is kind of the traditional, I suppose, the, where students will try and absorb information, collaboration, discussion, investigation, practice, and production. So as part of the workshop then, what participants do is they have a module in mind. They might tweet what their module is, so it forces them to really think about what are the essential elements of the module. And then they look at they consider their module as it is, or their program as it is currently, and map the elements of the learning types across a graph. Now, again, it's not an exact science. When I've done this workshop before, people have been like, where are the percentages and where do I need, is it 1 to 100 or is it 1 to 10? It doesn't really matter. It just gives you essentially a visual. So when you do the workshop, then you get a sense of where your module sits, what kind of shape it looks like, and it gives you a very immediate sense then of where you may want to change elements. So you can see, for example, this shape of a program as the sample, the acquisition is quite high. So that gives us a sense then, for example, the discussion is lower and the investigation is lower. So in a curriculum redevelopment, maybe that could be something to focus on in terms of maybe bringing the acquisition down, the practice and discussion larger, and so on. So there's a kind of a pre and a post workshop idea that you're mapping, and you can see across the bottom as well, there's a graph where you can chart, sorry, it's a little bit difficult to see there on the line, but that line, that horizontal line looks at a graph from online to face, and anything along that spectrum. So what I really like about the approach as well is that it was relevant pre-COVID, because some of us were trying to change face-to-face elements to blended elements. And it's obviously very relevant now as we're moving towards the fully online, that it works across both of those. So the approach of the workshop and using the tools is essentially you doing a storyboard. So participants then look across the different types and just map those on a storyboard regarding how they would like their module to look. So thinking, for example, in that shape, what changes would like to be made to that shape? How would that look then in terms of the cards being plotted out across a template? So to give you a closer look at this, is just a sample. Obviously, there's not enough time to go into detail with each of the cards, but what each of the cards indicate is that on one side is the name of the learning type, and on the flip side then are approaches. So we have both the conventional method and the digital technology method side by side. So what this enables then is that, for example, like I said, moving from face-to-face to online, participants can then map across and look at something. For example, if they've been doing a small group project and wondering how that might be facilitated in an online context, there's a way to do that with digital technology, and even thinking about building joint digital outputs and so on. So all of the cards have this side on the back, which has got the conventional and the digital technologies mapped. And also, obviously, there's scope for people to put their own. And very importantly, down the bottom as well, I don't know if you can see, but there's 2 stars, a gold star and a silver star. So again, this enables people to really think about even flagging these ideas as formative and summative assessment, because I think what we're also experiencing now, which I'm very happy about, I must say, is people are actually thinking differently about their assessment methods, because it's the fallback of going into the exam hall isn't necessarily as easy in an online context. So I think it's actually forcing people to really think about other forms, alternative forms of assessment, and that it is possible to have formative and summative assessments that aren't exam-based. So at the end of the module planning, you end up with a kind of a shape that looks like this, and you have the other elements on the other side as well, and you've selected the learning activities. So again, when you kind of come back to the shape at the end, you can then get a sense of how the shape may have changed, and also this sense you can see on the horizontal line at the bottom that there may have been more of a change to the fully online as away from the face-to-face. So I suppose I'm flagging then, and I'm conscious that I'm saying as a workshop, but I think it's all of these tools are available under Creative Commons license. All of the information about undertaking the workshops at a local level are all available online. All of the cards, all of the printouts are available. And they've also developed an online version as well, where the cards are available as a soft copy, for example. But I think if nothing else, like I said at the beginning, it really provides a language for talking through elements of redesign for curriculum. And I think that's something that we're really faced with at the moment. So I'd be encouraging people to really engage with, even if it's just a matter of, and sorry, I'm just going to flip right back to where I had all of the types in front of you there. I think if even at a minimum, if it was to start engaging in a conversation around to what extent does your curriculum maybe reflect these elements already, and to what extent maybe would you be able to look at changing those from a face-to-face to an online context, and using the flip side of the cards, which, as I said, are available online, to look at how that might be done. And in the program that I teach, participants do that as a portfolio exercise as part of their assessment. So again, it's a very scaled down version of this full workshop. But that's why I have no vested interest in the project. I wasn't involved in the project. I'm not getting any kickbacks, unfortunately, from the project. But I really am an advocate for it, because it's such a practical way of talking through, like I said, even if it's just getting the language around the curriculum design elements. So that's kind of it from me. I just wanted to, sorry, I'm going to make everyone dizzy again by just going right to the last slide here. So I have got some resources here, and I'm happy to share these links. So there's also at the top of the list there is a link to a blog that a colleague just sent me actually yesterday. And it's this idea of the ethics of care around teaching and learning, which I think is really relevant to this theme. There's also all of the ABC to VLE resources there, the Spark tool, a link to my centre, and my contact details as well. So I'm be more than happy to engage in some discussion at this stage as suits. And thanks for your time.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Bryony. And it is indeed interesting, because when you actually finish ahead of time, so we have some more time for discussions. But
Great.
I would like to also summarize a little bit to our participants on your presentations. You are presenting two different, what I would like to call a method or a tool here, which is Spark and ABC. And it doesn't necessarily used directly to the students, but instead it is an internal, it is to aid the internal process of a teacher. For the first one, Spark, it is actually quite touching for me, because our first keynote speaker, Dr. John Mason, is also talking about resilience and agility, professional resilience and agility, and how it leads to massive attritions from the teachers. And it's because they are being stretched out. So this teacher self-care or lecturer self-care in itself is very important. You cannot give what you cannot have, like one of your sayings that you mentioned. And also for the ABC, it's a great way for us to visualize where our curriculum or our courses stands in terms of what type of techniques and strategy we will use in our class. During your presentation, I'm constantly reflecting through my own classes. So yes, I think I would like to have to look back into it. However, let's take on some questions. We have about more than 15 minutes actually for you who would like to ask. We have one question from our fellow invited speaker, Jörg Kern. Hang on, let me go back to it. And Pak Jörg, would you like to ask the questions directly, if you are able, and if the host can help to unmute Pak Jörg? Yes, you're on.
Oh, yeah. Hello. Do I remember what I asked?
Yes, yeah, I do remember. You asked about assuming that we are not going back to where we are.
Like assuming that we are not going back to where we were before the pandemic. Like, wouldn't you say that the what you titled pandemic pedagogy will influence the pedagogy in the future anyway.
Yes, absolutely. I think we're past the point of no return, I think. And I think a lot of us at the start of the pandemic, I'm making this assumption, but I know we here in Ireland, we're saying, look, it'll be 3 weeks, maybe 6 weeks. We'll see you in a few months when we'll be back on campus. We'll be back to normal. So we really have gone beyond that. So I think it's about being realistic and even in terms of what do we want to retain? What have we learned? What are elements that we want to say, no way, absolutely, I do not want to do that in an online context. I want to get back into the classroom to do that in a face-to-face. However, these elements are what I've really learned that have really enabled, more participation, more inclusivity, more accessibility, and so on. So I think it's a really interesting time. And as I said with the ABC tools, just that language even around what is discussion, what is collaboration. All of these elements to then think through and say, do I really need to hang on to this? Do I want to revert to this as a face-to-face? Do I need to, or is there an online equivalent as well? And I think just to say as well, and I think that's it's a really useful point, Helena, about the students, because one of the things about that I mentioned was about the students as partners and the ability to actually engage students as part of the curriculum development process as well, because the language is so accessible, talking about the elements of curriculum, then you can have students involved in helping you plan the curriculum. So I think that's, to speak to your point, Jorg, about what do students want to retain and what do they want to get rid of now that we're in that past that point of no return, I think.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pak York, and also Ibu Bryony or Dr. Bryony. I would like to also ask the participant if you would like to ask questions, but you cannot ask in English. Please feel free to write in Bahasa Indonesia. I will help you to direct the questions into English. Kalau ada yang mau bertanya tapi tidak bisa bertanya dengan bahasa Inggris, silakan bertanya dengan bahasa Indonesia. Saya akan menerjemahkan ke bahasa Inggris. Okay, so while waiting, we have one question submitted to me in Bahasa Indonesia directly to me. The question is about teacher self-care. Most teachers are government officials in Indonesia, except for those who teaches in government, in private schools. So there are no choice. If they would like, even if they are overwhelmed, they still have to do it. They cannot ask for leave. So what do Spark, how can Spark help them in this? That's one question. And if I add another one, so then you can answer directly. From Ibu Leni Amelia Swek, what are the limitations of these two tools, the Spark and ABC? Is it possible to use them in any countries? Is it applicable everywhere? So maybe those two first.
Sure. So I think to the first question, I think that's the reality, isn't it? Unfortunately, that a lot of us are in these situations where we are under a huge amount of pressure. We can't necessarily go to our managers and say, I need extra time. I mean, I think this year there's been so much pressure on so many angles for all of us. I think the Spark tool is obviously not, it's not a panacea. It's not a silver bullet. It's not going to solve everything. I think where it was very, very useful was even just to highlight there's all the different areas on a circle. So we may think, for example, that work is the issue. Now, by and large, it is, but there are other elements. For example, when I had my students undertake it, they realized, oh, I'm actually not getting out for my 20 minutes of exercise. I'm not getting out for a walk. I'm not even getting outside. Or I used to do yoga and I've really let that slip. Or I don't meet people for coffee, and so I don't have that social interaction. So it's even just getting an idea of, because even, we can still meet colleagues, for example, we can still do work-based activities. But I think it's even now where it's more pressure and it's more planning in terms of sending someone an invite to have a Zoom coffee. But I think that was the realization of, I still need to maintain my social connections, can still do that in a work context. But it puts it into a different frame, I suppose, when you see it as a holistic piece. Yeah. So that's what I'd say. Probably the talking to the point of the what was the weakness of the tools, is that it won't solve all the problems. There is a bit of fine print actually in the Spark tool that says, you know, if you feel you need further resources, you know, you do need to seek those out, for example. The ABC tool is absolutely available. I know they've done a number of translations. I don't think they've done it into Bahasa, is it Indonesian?
Yes,
I
Bahasa
don't think they've done that, but they've certainly got it in. And to be honest, they would be open to translation, I'm sure, because they've done a number. I think they've got it in Swedish, Danish, they've got it in Japanese. So if that was, you know, if that was something that you think would be of interest, I think the project team, you know, they're very open to that. All of the everything is available Creative Commons. So everything down to if you're doing a curriculum development workshop with peers, the PowerPoints are available online. You just download them. There's guidance in terms of how to structure the workshop as well. So it's a very open. It's a European funded project. So the idea is it's Creative Commons and that there are resources available for everyone to use.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bryony. The chat box have no more questions. Oh, hang on, there's one more questions. It asks, let me translate. Hang on. Oh, no, it's already been deleted. Retracted questions. But I think if I can catch it is, it says, how do you imagine the education life after COVID? Yeah.
Gosh, that's wow.
I think I'm going to ask that question also to Jörg after this, but I'm going to listen to you first.
I think that's a really good question. Because I even myself, and I'm sure we're all the same, we're starting to think, what will I retain and what will I want to give up? I know for me, I really miss having, you know, as I showed the campus, as you can see behind me, the virtual campus, walking around the campus and running into people and having, you know, just conversations that happen organically that aren't planned. I really miss that kind of interaction. I feel like the online interaction is so planned. So I think trying to get that back, but I think there's also elements that are really good in terms of the flexibility. I can stay home. I can see my son off to school. You know, we can put dinner on in the middle of the day and we have a hot meal at the end of the day because we haven't needed to leave the house. We're not commuting. So it's an interesting one. I'm curious to see what it's going to look like.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Bryony. I think we have
Pleasure.
reached our time slot for the first speaker. I thank you very much for committing to the time limit that we provided.
No problem.
And thank you for your wonderful presentations. It's really enlightened us in many ways. And I do hope that you can stay for the next part of the.
I will, of course. I'd love to. Thanks very much.
Right. Thank you very much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to move on to our second invited speaker, Mr. Pak Jorn Kern. He is a freelance e-learning designer. I'm going to introduce him to you. That Pak Jorn Kern, for over 15 years, he has been working as an e-learning project manager, designer, and developer, being responsible for the design, development, implementations, and evaluation of high quality and engaging e-learning programs, something that we need to ask after this, for a wide variety of subject matter. He designed and developed e-learning courses according to different principles of adult learning, aiming at different kinds of knowledge, and by using a wide variety of e-learning authoring tools. His MA degree in educational sciences adds a sound theoretical base, enabling him to develop the most engaging e-learning courses by applying adult learning theories with an appropriate blend of methods of instructions. So that's an awesome awesome bio right there. I myself dealing with this new online learning, because the online learning is still in a very early stage, and we dive into it quite prematurely because of COVID-19. So we're looking forward to learn some more from you. So, Pak Jorn Kern, you have 30 minutes and you may start now. Host, can you please unmute Pak Jorn?
Am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you
Oh,
now.
that's good. That's good. Well, thank you for the introduction. I just have to see how I go here. Oh no, I have to share my screen, I think, first of all, right? This is I'm not used to I'm not used to giving presentations like this, so this is all new to me, and therefore it might be a little bumpy at some points. Oops, would you mind? Oh, you have to enable my screen sharing.
Okay. Can you try again? Let's see. Does it work?
That's better.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So,
now we can see your presentation, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. So, first of all, welcome. And I wanted to say, what I wanted to say was that like this is kind of new in several ways, because I'm not like, this is the first time I'm streamed live to YouTube. And as well, the first time I think that I give a presentation at a seminar like this. So I hope you will gain some interesting insights of what I say. In my day-to-day, in my presentation, I'm going to I want to provide an insight into how e-learning programs evolve from the first keystroke to finished product. I think at the end of my presentation, you will have a clearer image of what I mean when I say e-learning program. A couple of years ago, you would have said web-based training. So that's what I do for my day-to-day business. And developing these in the process, like developing these, the perspective of finally, in the end, having a finished product in my hands, if I may say so, that still enlightens me and drives me, even after having done this job for 15 years. Well, you said like, you introduced me already, but let me say some words to myself. I did my my MA degree in Educational Sciences, Organizational Psychology and National Economics back in 1969. For the Educational Sciences, I focused on designing multimedia learning environments, as it was called back then. And this has added like a theoretical base that enables me to develop hopefully engaging e-learning courses by applying adult learning theories with an appropriate blend of behavioral and cognitive methods of instruction. I have to say that like, whereas these methods of instruction and the learning theories have influenced me back then, or still influence me, I wouldn't dare to say that I apply them on a day-to-day basis, but they surely influence what I'm doing. So for over 15 years, I have been working as an e-learning project manager, designer, and developer. And I am responsible, obviously, for the design, development, implementation, and evaluation of high quality and engaging e-learning programs for a wide variety of subject matter, as you said already. This subject matter ranging from IT via finance and insurance towards health and social skills like leadership skills. And I try to apply different principles of adult learning, for example, system-oriented versus problem-oriented. And we aim at imparting different kinds of knowledge, for example, factual knowledge or procedural knowledge or knowledge about processes. And we use a wide variety of e-learning authoring tools, the most important ones to mention, and I hope I have the time to quickly show one later, would be these days, for example, the Articulate 360 or Articulate Storyline, Lectora, and the likes. Having been on the rather practical side of things for such a long time, the instructional theories and didactical approaches, for example, component display theory, cognitive apprenticeship, cognitive flexibility theory, or situated cognitions, they do rather have a strong impact on my work than as I said before, then I would be able to quote them as such. So, like in my role, I'm responsible for the project management. That is, for example, scheduling a project from start to end. I'm responsible for stakeholder relations. So any person having to give input to the project is, for them, I'm the first point of contact. Obviously, I have to do drafts, like setting up the, conceptualize the e-learning progress, the programs, the storyboarding, the development with the variety of software tools. Then I'm responsible for technical, didactical and didactical quality assurance, as well as quality assurance as far as content is concerned. And finally, I'm responsible for rolling out these e-learning programs, be it to an LMS, learning management system, or to Microsoft SharePoint, or just to a website. The starting point of my work is always when a company becomes aware of knowledge or skills gaps in their workforce, or, for example, if they realize they need to communicate to the, like, let's say, public, other than by means of marketing. A lack of skills might, for example, be leadership skills. I have one example there when Telstra, which is the Australian telecommunications company, became aware that their actually customer-facing team leaders lacked leadership skills. So they invented a series of e-learning programs providing, like, or trying to build up these skills, which was a very interesting project. Obviously, like, whenever a company employs new workforce, they would induce them to their, like, probably to what they need to know about the business, but as well to issues like occupational health and safety or workplace behavior. For product trainings, it might happen that products change. For example, insurance products change all the time due to change in legislation. And then the workforce their skills have to be kept up to date. Then, for example, sometimes corporate companies invent new IT systems, and these new IT systems influence the work processes in parts. So that's as well when the workforce has to be upskilled, looking into, first of all, handling the new IT system, and then being able to handle the change processes, and communication and information to the public. That is one example I have there, when back in the early to mid 2000s, there was a discussion going on mainly in the United States about how medical imaging may cause harm to the human body. And then like the company Siemens Healthcare, they decided to make a 20-minute e-learning on like the impacts of radiation in medical imaging on the human body, which they then provided to their workforce, to the service technicians, as well as to the any kind of medical personnel in hospitals or general practices. So these would be the starting points when companies become aware of knowledge gaps in their workforce, and like that would be I come in. So setting up e-learning projects usually goes along along a schedule. So we start with a kickoff, and in the kickoff, all the project stakeholders get together. I'll talk about the kickoff later. The second phase would be the design phase, where we develop a didactical draft, on the one hand, and if necessary or if applicable, a visual design on the other hand. And the third phase would be the development of the e-learning program or the web-based training, where we first develop from our didactical draft, we develop a detailed draft, and further on a storyboard, and then a production. Gathering and implementing the client's feedback after each and every of these stages, like, ensures that I am in line, or we are in line with their expectations, and therefore can safely move ahead. So we won't be in trouble with the client saying, "Oh, but I didn't want it like this." So let me talk about the kickoff now shortly. The kickoff is, like, as I said, all the project stakeholders get together, and for me, I use this to scope the range of content as well as the learning duration. The learning duration for me is very important because I make my calculation based on the learning duration, and therefore that defines how much money I make. So if I say it's going to take 60 minutes and it's going to take 90 minutes, that's obviously not good for me. But it might as well not be good for the client, because if they assume that their workforce will need 60 minutes to work through e-learns, and the workforce then it takes them 90 minutes, they might not be happy with that. That happened once. Usually they are happy to get more for their money. We would as well scope the technical requirements as well as the possibilities. So we would look into, for example, we would look into what are we working for. We would talk about display resolutions. We would talk about bandwidths. We would talk about where do we run the finished product. For example, would it be running in an LMS, or what's the runtime environment? Is it an LMS? Is it SharePoint? Is it just a website? We would specify design and CI requirements. I'm gonna talk about that a little later. We would as well gather information on the target group, which is very important, like the audience. So we would, like, I would always be interested in like, is there an average age of that target group? What's their educational background as well? So what's their questions you wouldn't probably ask, but like, I would be interested in knowing what's their gender, what's their nationality, what's their age, are they native speakers of the language? And we would obviously want to know about their roles and their professional background, and last but not least, are they like skilled computer users, or are they not so skilled computer users? Their computer literacy. We would as well collect base material from the subject matter expert, SME. The subject matter expert is my first point of contact in anything that concerns the subject matter, the topic, the content. And we would obviously in the kickoff narrow down the kind of knowledge that is involved. That happens almost automatically. Is it factual knowledge? So do they need to learn about facts about the business? Do they need to learn problem solving? Do they need process knowledge, or do they need soft skills? We would definitely talk about that. And we finally define one or more overall learning objectives. So what do we want to be the outcome of our e-learning? And during the phases of the development, we go top down through the learning objectives. So in the design phase, when we set up a didactical draft, there we will develop a table of contents, a rough table of contents, and we would further narrow down the learning objectives there, and we would narrow down that later even more. So, and then, like, in the end, we could look bottom up whether our learning objectives all make sense if we, look backwards, so to say. So, talking about the didactical design and like what I call the base materials from the that I gather from the subject matter experts, in most cases, there have been instructor-led trainings that are being moved to an e-learning. So usually there are training materials, for example, PowerPoint slides that we can rely on and use as our source of information. In other cases, for example, in the insurance business, there might be legislation, or in IT, there might be software handbooks that we can use to structure and scope the content. Scoping is always important, as I said. So with some experience, or everybody would be well able to, make up how much content makes for how much learning time. And at this level, in the didactical design, a table of content is being drafted that does comprise the chapters of the e-learning program, as well as the learning objectives for each chapter. In an optimal world concerning didactics, in an optimal world, we could apply different approaches of how to pass our knowledge depending on what our analysis brought up. So two possible approaches would be one more systematic approach, which is feasible when the audience does not have an elaborate prerequisite knowledge, and we therefore want to teach them a lot about facts rather than procedures. This is widely used, and we break the learning content down into digestible bits, teach these digestible bits in short sequences, and then make sure that the content has been learned and digested by the learners by adding short test sequences or quizzes or similar. An example, therefore, would be a program called The Basics of Reinsurance. That was one reinsurance company invented for, and every new member of the workforce had to do this learning program, no matter which role, because the company wanted them to know at least the basics of the business. As opposed to that, you could apply a more problem-based approach when the audience already have quite a range of prerequisite knowledge about facts and procedures and need upskilling to take on new roles or new or changed work processes. In this case, we would use the work processes to guide us in providing the knowledge. So we would not focus on the factual knowledge, we would focus on the process and provide the knowledge necessary to perform the task around the process. I will hopefully have the time to talk about an example there as well.
You still have 10 minutes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. The next part phase is the visual design, which I think is very important. So if we want to set up, if we develop e-learnings, it is really important on a corporate level to apply the corporate design or corporate identity to our e-learning programs. And there are mainly three main sources to build visual designs. And at least one of them is usually available. So if there's nothing there, you could always look at the company's website, because there are usually, some design elements there which you can use and then apply for what you are doing. If that's even better, if there's a PowerPoint design available and the company has a corporate design style guide, for example, for PowerPoints, you could use that. Both of the web design and the PowerPoint design would help you in gathering information about slide styles, about colors, about fonts, about navigational elements you want to use, and you would take those into account when drafting a design. And the best case is obviously if there's an e-learning design already available. It is quite amazing, in my experience, even if there's an e-learning design already available, how diverse the design can be in just the same course. So the talking visual design, it's necessary to review what you have at your hand and then design what you want to use and how you want to use it. It is really important that your client find their company well represented in your e-learning program's design, because if necessary, you can have them review and comment on your visual design before going too far into development. It might be a good idea even to develop a functional design prototype comprising your main slide types, functionalities, and design ideas. So for design, I would always say, like, keep it simple, design 2 or 3 slide styles and try to stick to them. We're talking e-learning, it's not always possible. Pick a couple of colors to use throughout. I want to just quickly, I have mentioned here on this slide the Adobe Color Wheel, which is quite a nice tool to use. I want to quickly show this. Can you see it? Yeah. So this, and I can provide the link later on. This provides you can choose a set of colors very quickly. So there's different kinds of sets, and then you can adjust till you find a possibility that suits you and that you like. Sorry. Oh, and yeah. On the side, these colors match or suit the most human eyes, I'd say. You would as well select a couple of, usually one font type and one style, some styles and some font sizes, as simplicity enables learners to more easily process the information and navigate your slides. I want to just quickly show 2 visual design examples. This is Munich Re. They have a menu tree, a menu to the left with all the chapters, sub-chapters, and slides there. They have quite some navigational elements. You can collapse, maximize, or hide the menu. You can call up a set of tools, like, for example, a help or a glossary. You can navigate in your slides or within your slides. They have a header bar at the top. They have this is a 3-column layout. So 1 column is here for the text and 2 columns are for the visual. You could do with these 3 columns whatever you like. You could give the image all 3, or like 1/3 image, 2/3 text, whatever you prefer, but you would still be within the same design. Another one is a Telstra example, which I think is very different. You have a very simple navigation, just next slide and backwards. You can call up a help. The resources you can call up, which is a set of PDF files that give you further information, and you can call up a menu tree on the top right. So, and this this before is like, this is building up simultaneously to a spoken text. So this is rather not so interactive, and this one is more interactive because all the information in the texts would only show up when you click on the icons there. So, and yeah, 2 different kinds of visual designs. Right. Once we are finished with our design, we go ahead and start development. The first step here is a detailed draft, which outlines the structure of the content based on available source material. It defines the structure of the web-based training on a slide level and states which content is to be delivered on each slide. It may also be used to collect ideas for visualization, quizzes, and so on. There should be a clear learning objective for each part of the structure. This is beneficial for both the designer and the audience, as it clarifies expectations. So here in the image to the right, I have an example for a detailed draft. That would be, what you see here refers to 1 slide in the final project. You have the learning objective at the top. You have like bulleted your on-screen content, and you have a short description of the imagery. Okay, the next step would be the storyboard. Actually, in this image, you don't see the entire storyboard. The storyboard is a further elaboration of the detailed draft. It contains any detail of the later web-based trainings on a slide level. On-screen text and spoken texts are fully written out. Visualizations such as images or animations should be included or at least scribbled or described. Directions for animation, video, and the page build should be given. In my opinion, the storyboard is the most critical step in developing web-based trainings, as at this stage, everything starts to get together and give a bigger picture. Once you have the storyboard approved by your client, you would start into production. And in production, all the media are going to be developed. The content is brought to life in this stage, as I like to say. The if audio is being used, the audio is going to be recorded and edited. Video is going to be recorded and edited as if applicable. Images are going to be selected according to the descriptions in the storyboard. The images are going to be developed and edited. The authoring is being done in authoring tools like, as I said, Storyline or Lectora. Once the production is finished, it's going to be rolled out to an LMS, usually first to a test LMS, so that the subject matter experts and eventually a certain range of the target group can test and verify that the e-learning program reaches its objective. The communication between the e-learning program and the learning management system is managed by interfaces like SCORM or AICC or XAPI. So the learning program says, okay, this learner has passed or failed or completed or incompleted the learning program, and this is then sent forward to the LMS. So that's as well yeah, that should as well work. Okay. I am not sure. I'm going to skip over the next slide, and just because I really want to show. I have a couple of minutes left, and I want to show one authoring tool, just to give you an idea of how, like, for example, you could set up a couple of knowledge checks in order to assess whether the students got a pass or a fail. So this would be, you would see here, I hope you can see that, an overview of all the slides and the chapters in one learning program. So this is four chapters where knowledge is being imparted, and then there's one chapter comprising a, like, I'd say, a test sequence or a knowledge check. So there's different kind of knowledge checks, a wide variety. There's multiple choice, there's multiple answer questions, there's sequence drop-down questions where you have to put to bring certain terms in order. There's, for example, drag and drop questions where you have to drag the right solution into the right place. And like after the learners have worked through all the questions, they will be provided with a results slide. And there you see that they are provided with the score they made, and as well the score they need to pass the e-learn. And these results are like saved in variables and then communicated to the LMS. So in the LMS, the learner would get a pass or a fail or a completed or an incompleted once they finish the e-learning program. And it's up to the actually the client what they want as a criteria for the learners to fail. So they could say, okay, if he looked at half of the slides, for example, then that's okay for us, and he's getting passed or completed. But they might say, no, he has to answer all the questions in the test correctly, otherwise he's not going to pass. Yeah. So, and now I can go back. Oh, yeah.
I have 2 minutes left, sir.
Yeah, fine. I'm finished. I thank you for your attention. Thank you for your attention, and would like to ask for any questions or comments.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Yorker. The participants, you may type your questions in the chat box. I will ask to Mr. York later. If you cannot ask in Bahasa Inggris, you can write in Bahasa Indonesia. Okay, Pak York, thank you very much for a very insightful presentations. You
Yes.
present a very technical insight to the process of setting up e-learning. And if I may say, it's not just the process of e-learning that you talk about, but you talk about the technique of creating the platform or the programs where the curriculums and all the activities are going to be fit in. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, if you look into it, it is very technical. But just to bring what your presentation is, and then in line it with the experience of most of the audience we have here, the audience are mostly lecturers and teachers and also students. So in a way, we are using the already available platform like Canvas and Google Classroom, etc. It's already there. So my question is, just to kick things off, can we still apply the 3 phases that you mentioned? You know, the kickoff, the design, and the development, keeping in mind that the client we have here is our students and also the curriculum that we need to satisfy. How would you you know?
That's an interesting question. Yeah. Well, I would I would still. Yeah, I would say so. Like, as I think you could probably merge what Bryony said and what I said in a way. What am I saying? Because yeah. Let me think.
Yeah.
Like what I'm doing in my day-to-day business is like web-based trainings. So I think you could still apply parts of what I said in your business and to your clients, but you would probably not have your students approve what you are doing. But you would still gather their feedback, as I do after every phase. You would do that probably when you're teaching. You would ask them for their feedback as well.
This is just like what Bryony says before.
Yeah.
Having students being part of you designing your curriculum.
Exactly.
Yes, and I have another question. You see, from the context of being a teacher and a lecturer during this COVID-19, we are sort of being thrown into the deep of doing e-learning and online learning and stuff when our initial ability is also in a pre-stage. Not all teachers are there. So now that we are now in and we have to do it without all those steps that you mentioned before. I mean, ideally we would all love to go through all that. From your reflecting from your experience, how do you think we should do as a teacher and lecturer?
Like you see, like I have to admit that my view on e-learning is pretty restricted, because this is all I do every day. And I think what you do in e-learning is very, very different. So like, it's hard for me to advise. Yeah.
Just your insight on how we should do. Now that we're already here, we have to design this curriculum. We have to assign all this program. Some are trial and error, some work, some doesn't. So we cannot reset, you know.
Yeah, I would but I would still, like, obviously, I mean, it depends on, like, if you obviously jumped into the deep water. So I would say, like, if there would be documentation on what you've done so far, you could look into that and see whether you can improve from there. You see, yeah. And I think there should be any kind of documentation, at least, your teaching materials or anything. I would just take this as an ongoing and evolving process and keep improving. And pretty much till you get to a stage where you say, okay, this is working well for us now. And that's like, yeah, that's pretty much the same as what I do.
Yes, we have one question from the participant, and I think this one is from a student, Mimi, and she asked if she wants to do the same line of work as you do, what should she need to prepare? What kind of educational background does she need or training, and how can she do the job that you're doing?
Oh,
job
one.
Prospect, I think.
Yeah. Like, get your head around, like, look into, actually, I would like, there's a lot of, I think that back then there has been a lot of like pedagogical insight into instructional design, for example. So that's where, like, in my university career, that's what I did. And then after that, I slowly started to, after the university, I slowly started to move into that more technical direction, learning. The main thing would be learning tools like articulate storyline, which is like big now these days, but it's going to change anyway. Or Lectora, try to get your head around rapid authoring tools. Some of them provide, free trial versions that give you, I don't know, 90 days of just trialing them. So you could think about doing that because, well, they are expensive. Yeah. And then, yeah, have you as well, visual design is always important. That, to me, that appeared very late, but it is important, and having an insight into that is as well helpful. And you can do that like in self-study. There's a lot of self-study you can do. If I may just wait a sec, I think I have it open. There's another, like, I just copied that link. There's a visual design guide, actually, by Articulate Storyline. So if you want to look into visual design, that's maybe an hour read or so. And I just copy that link into the chat. So
okay, Community Articulate.
Yeah, that's it. And I think it's a 20-page PDF, and it's really insightful in what concerns visual design. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Jörg. I think we're done with the questions.
There was one private question to me.
Oh, yes, please. I can't see it here.
Yeah. Has it gone or has it not gone? It was about which tools I apply when storyboarding. And well, that depends on, what my clients likes. It's usually PowerPoint with the slide as the visual representation of the screen, and then the notes section for all the instructions and descriptions. It might as well be a Word table. So it's PowerPoint or Word, actually.
Whichever the clients prefer.
Yeah.
Or whichever comfortable. Yeah,
and sometimes they are happy to do what I say. So.
Yeah. Okay. Pak Jörg, thank you very much for your time and for your presentations. It does give us a very good insight into how we plan and detailed an e-learning. And for my students who are present at the moment, this is an opportunity for you to see that there is this occupation that you might not know before. There are people who design e-learning for a living. So if you want to take that up, this is a very good take from this session. So thank you very much, Pak Jörg. But before we finish, I think Ibu Bryony, Dr. Bryony is mentioning about the jumping into the deep end, as we are at the moment as teacher and lecturers, being plunged into the deep. I have the jaw apa theme song. Dun, 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 in us, there will be a shark coming at us at any moment. Would you like to elaborate a little bit before we end this session? We still have about 3 to 4 minutes. I think you need to unmute.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yep, I unmuted there. Yeah, it was just when you were talking about that, I think we're very much in the same boat. We're using the water metaphor there, being in the deep end, but I think we're, you know, regardless of where we are, we've been very much thrown into this. So I did post a link there, and I was interested in the fact that you use Canvas, because we also use Canvas at UCC. It's relatively new, but I just put a link in the chat there. We developed a number of short guides and kind of support for lecturers at UCC who were basically, as you say, just thrown in the deep end. Our summer, so I don't know where you are in your academic year, but we're just at the end of our first semester, and our summer was basically trying to work out how on earth we were going to deliver all this content online. So there's a few. Now, some of them will be kind of locked for UCC staff, but there are a really good few number of resources on that page there. But if there's anything else that you're interested in, I'm happy to see what I can dig up, and I'm happy to share what we have, because it's certainly a learning curve for all of us, I think.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Bryony. Thank you very much, Mr. Jorkern, for a wonderful presentation and discussion. We cannot thank you enough for being with us. Maluku is a very small island. I mean, Ambon is a very small island in the east of Indonesia. So I think COVID-19 brings us one good thing. So we got all these people with expertise that come to talk to us when we got to hear it firsthand. One thing that we can take from this session is that we are also all in the same boat. We're facing the same challenges in a slightly different spectrum, but we're all there. So all we need to do is just share and help each other. The links, participants, are there in the chat box if you want to save those links for further informations and learning. So once again, thank you very much. And that concluded the panel session, the second panel session for day 1. And I shall return this floor to the Madam MC.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Ibu. Pak York, thank you.
All right, thank you very much for Madam Moderator, Ibu Helena Rijoli, and as well as our 2 invited speakers. Thank you so much for sharing their expertise, which is very interesting as the last topic for our today's discussion. And excellent participants, ladies and gentlemen, we will proceed to the closing for first day of this international seminar. As we bring the first day of this seminar, we once again thank each and everyone. We hope that this event has given you a much clearer understanding on education. A kind reminder, we will return to this opportunity for tomorrow as our last day. Unfortunately, we will start at 10 a.m. sharp Eastern Indonesia time, with interesting topics for sure, and this will end until the closing ceremony. On behalf of the committee, I'm Francia Michelle Lohi, and also the other members and staffs, we are signing out.
Thank you, Karen. Terima kasih semuanya. Kayaknya sesinya sudah selesai. So, kita boleh keluar. Guys, sampai jumpa besok.